Let's make it happen. We're live on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions. Excited to be with you on a big-time Thursday because there's a lot of news for us to cover. The Major League Baseball season is 1 week old, and there has been very real market movement that we will get to and a little bit later on in this show. Of course, the fallout from the trade of Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans. We will hit that as well. We've got a nice NBA card, a big NHL slate, and one more baseball game remaining on tonight's board, as well as the NIT final. Before we get to all of that, let's talk a little New York Knicks basketball, who had some very unfortunate news come across their table. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN confirming that Julius Randle will be out for the remainder of the season. A Knicks year that felt like it could be special. Cut short when the Randle injury was compiled by an OG Anunoby injury. This team, if somebody was going to surprise in the East, and hey, the East is not a stranger to surprises. The Miami Heat last year, as the 8th seed, made the NBA Finals. The Knicks felt like they had juice. At least the Knicks faithful really did believe that. And it feels like a lot of that juice has now been sucked out of them. This is a team that's 2 up on the Pacers, which is a play-in spot right now in the 7th seed. To be fair, the Knicks are tied in the loss column with the Cavs, who have the 3 seed. They're only 2 back of the Bucks, who can't help but lose all the bad basketball teams they play. If you want to get all the way up to the 2 seed, which is incredible. It's tight in the Eastern Conference right now, but for the Knicks, seeding be damned. This team is going to be shorthanded when the playoffs come, and this is just the fate of Julius Randle. We still don't have a real timetable on OG Anunoby. The Knicks are in action tonight against the Sacramento Kings. We will see how they respond. Let's get our radio audience into the fold. Sirius XM, channel 159. Excited to be with you here on Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh, and as we open this up, and put our eyes again on everything being offered, this NIT final is going to have some excitement because you've got Indiana State and you've got Seton Hall, 2 teams that had great years. Seton Hall just missed the cut of the NCAA tournament. The Sycamores were favored to get an at-large bid, lost the Missouri Valley final to Drake, and they've shown themselves very favorably in the NIT. As far as the pick, though, I don't got one. Listen, I'm very... What I give is what I bet. And I am here in Jersey, and I can't bet this game. And I think that's an absolute shame that I can't get involved because Seton Hall's nearby. You know, there are current conversations ongoing about pulling back on college betting, on college sports betting, removal of college player props, which I vehemently disagree with, and I think would actually have the inverse effect. And this is another part. The idea that if you're in Jersey, you can't bet on Seton Hall, but if you're in Philly or New York, you can. It is nonsense. It is unfortunate, but it should be a fun NIT final nonetheless. Let's continue to move this forward here. Again, the NHL board is big time, but the NBA board has a lot of spicy action. When you take a look here, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat are in a huge battle. We've talked about where the Knicks are and their current situation. The Heat are just now up to the 6. The Sixers are currently in the 8th spot. Philly has the easiest remaining schedule in the league. They will be pretty sizable favorites, Philly, in every game they play beyond this one against Miami. Miami has an easy schedule to navigate as well. This is a huge swing game in the Eastern Conference. If you're the Celtics, the dream scenario, Miami's out of the play-in or Philly. The other one gets the 7 seed, and you at most would play one of them in a conference finals. Get them completely removed from your bracket. We'll see if they're going to be so fortunate. The Knicks remain slight favorite against the Sacramento Kings. Big-time back-end race here between Houston and Golden State. Warriors win this. It likely puts the Rockets away. The gap in the loss column would be 4 with about 6 games remaining. So this one is massive. And then we've got Denver and the Clippers. We've talked a lot about this Northwest race. And now everybody's played the same amount of games. You've got Minnesota up top with the tiebreaker. You've got Oklahoma City a game back of both, but they own the tiebreaker over Denver. If the Nuggets get this one, they're as low as minus 190. I saw to win the Northwest. It should be smooth sailing from here. This, though, has upset potential, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let's put eyes on 4 key games for tonight's NHL slate. Again, it's a very big board. In 20 minutes, Joe Madden will stop by and help us go through it all. Pittsburgh and Washington, as long as Crosby and Ovechkin are in this league, will always feel like a big game. Boston and Carolina, 2 of the best, will go head-to-head as well. We'll see what this Panthers team has for the Ottawa Senators. Florida has had themselves a terrific year. Let's shoot over now to Diggs and Houston and Buffalo and some of the odds movement that we saw due to this deal. We're going to zoom out a little bit in an hour and a half on this show and talk about where the Stephon Diggs updated specials are, where the Buffalo Bills sit in the AFC East race, and how to possibly attack the AFC South. Reminder, a lot of people are saying, man, nobody saw the Texans coming last year. Lie. False. This show, right here, Texans plus 500 to win the division. Wasn't a guess. It wasn't a hunch. No, it was broken down about that team having real juice, not just C.J. Stroud, but DeMeco Ryans, defensive additions, and a light schedule. Now a first-place schedule, it changes things. But speaking of things changing, the Texans drop from plus 190 to plus 110 to win the division. The conference odds is where you see a massive shift. They slice those in half, and they take a full 25 down to 15 to 1 move to win the Super Bowl, almost jumping the Buffalo Bills. They don't jump Buffalo. Why? The Bills still have staying power. There's, of course, a lot still up in the air. What is this team going to do with the NFL draft, which we are 3 weeks away from? And we'll talk a little draft tonight. Adam Kaplan will join this show in a half hour and get his thoughts on where everything sits 3 weeks out, plus the fallout from this move. But Buffalo holds firm for now. Favorite still in the AFC East, but plus 130 to plus 160. Conference odds plus 650 to 7-1. And the Super Bowl number bouncing back just a bit. Diggs' 4-year run in Buffalo was excellent. An undeniable top 5 wideout during that time. But the last 2 months or so, you could see why Buffalo was ready to move on. Was that Diggs falling off? Was that the falling apart of the relationship between the quarterback and the wide receiver? Maybe a little A, maybe a little B. Time will tell. Let's put a quick pick on the board for the people here. We're going to go with Jalen Brunson over 3.5 rebounds. This is at plus 124. Love getting that plus money on a number that Brunson has missed 2 in a row. Has not missed 3 straight times since he came back from injury there. Landed at 4 plenty of times. So you're going to want to make sure that but you won't see this. If it gets to 3.5 at minus money, this will never be 4.5. An expensive over 2.5, I could see some consideration. We're going over that 3.5 at plus 124. We'll be right back. More Game Time decisions.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Give me 3!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yeah!
Oh,
We
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live right here on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions. We're going to talk to Joe Madden in 15 minutes. Get set for the NHL card tonight. Maybe she'll have a pick in Kansas City, Chicago. That is the only baseball game left that has not started. We do have, at the moment, 4 different games that are live, including the MLB play of the day, Miami Marlins plus 120 money line. Off to as good of a start as you'd hope. A 5-3 lead, a new minus 650 number on their money line. Total 10.5 for the Marlins, looking to secure their first win of the season. Ryan Weathers up against Lance Lynn was the starting battle here. We're getting in the top of the 7th with the Miami Marlins trying to secure their first win. Pittsburgh right now, who has been red hot, is a minus 1,600 live favorite. You know, after their great start in Miami, they get to follow it up with a series against the Nationals, and they're taking advantage. Up 5-1 on Washington and Josiah Gray. 11.5 is your updated total. The Mets, who have been pitiful to open this year. 0-5. Offense is atrocious. Blew a 3-0 lead today. Lost in extras to the Detroit Tigers. Second leg of a doubleheader. Trailing 1-0. Again, it's the top of the 8th inning. I mean, what are we doing? I know the Mets are not supposed to be excellent this season, but their win total was still respectable. Is this a no-hitter? It's no-hitter watch. Oh, my gosh. Is this the worst team in the history of baseball? Many are asking it. Not enough are asking it, but many still are. Are you kidding me? This team, in 5 games, has 11 runs. This is their 6th. They're still at 11 runs. Nobody scored fewer other than the Chicago White Sox, but they've played 5. They're terrible. They'll play their 6th tonight. Oh, my. And the White Sox win total was, what, just over 60? The Mets were flirting with a over mid-70 win total. 15-win gap. This is abysmal. I mean, I know it's a lot of Mets breakdown for the people, but my, oh, my. Not good. Not good. Some quick housekeeping NBA-wise. Okay? We've talked at length, I know, about this Northwest race. The Denver Nuggets pulling in front through the odds. They secured their win over Wemby and San Antonio. The Thunder dropped 2 in a row at Philly, at Boston. They look like they're resting. It looks like they're saying, seeds be damned. We're going to get a top 3. That's fine. Which they will get a top 3 seed. I don't hate the move. But Jokic is now minus 4,000 to win MVP. was minus 700 to start this week. We did what to watch for in that race, Jokic was minus 700. So that's a huge move. People are trying to touch the Wemby DPOY market, 11-1 right now on FanDuel. I think it would be crazy if on a sub-20-win team he wins this award. But to me, still the reaction is, what is Victor Wembanyama's price going to be to win Defensive Player of the Year next year? Because now, to say Wemby's going to be the favorite in the market is not a hot take, it's a fact. I mean, there's no way he's not the favorite. Factor in the likelihood of it and the popularity, Wemby is going to be a favorite. How short of a number could we get here? Could we get a minus money number on Victor Wembanyama to win Defensive Player of the Year before the season starts? It wouldn't stun at this point. It really would not. 18-58, they're atrocious. It's not his fault, but I still don't think he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. We'll see. That is from the awards angle. I mentioned the West and the Northwest race there. The East is fascinating. It sets for a huge game tonight between Philly and Miami. Miami just pushed in front of the Indiana Pacers right now. The lead for Miami is basically a game. Miami has played 2 less than the Indiana Pacers, but up a game in the loss column right now, which is really all that matters. For the Heat, if they beat Philly tonight, they're going to feel great about being able to avoid that play-in range. If you're Philly, you need this one. You absolutely need it. A loss here puts you 3 back of the Heat in the loss column. With 5 to go, it's not going to happen. So a must-win tonight for the Sixers. Embiid expected to go. At last look, I still had Tyrese Maxey getting the questionable tag, game time decision. Love to see that. But it looks like he's trending towards playing as of 15 minutes ago. Same with Joel Embiid. The Embiid props are interesting. Was 26.5 for a points prop. I would not expect Embiid to play more than he did against Oklahoma City. 25.5 is the number. But you have to imagine Embiid could be more efficient than he was in the game against OKC. He was at home, but it was the first game in a very long time. We are talking January 30th, I believe was the last time we had a Joel Embiid game. Shot at 6 of 14 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3. He was a perfect, pristine 12 of 12 from the line. But again, factoring in the importance of this game, 25.5 for Embiid would be a look. On the NBA board, I do like 2 4-point dogs in the Rockets and the Clippers. Rockets, look, I took this team the other night against Minnesota on a 7.5-point line. Now, it was a bit of a miraculous cover. Hit a couple of 3-point shots to win out on the foul game. They entered the fourth quarter trailing by 9. So they won that by 2. They trailed in this basketball game by as many as 15. But they were also up early in the game, and they let that early lead slip through their fingers. It's a Rockets team that's now on a 2-game losing streak. But again, the swing for Houston this year, and ultimately, why is this team not going to be in the playoffs? It's the home road situation. They are 12-25 on the road this year. One of the worst in basketball. But they're a great home team. I mean, a great home team. 26-12. Here are the teams that have fewer home losses than the Rockets. Timberwolves, Nuggets, Thunder, the top 3. So this is a Rockets team at home catching 4 from the Warriors, who I'm still not overwhelmed by. I'll take the Rockets plus the 4. Same story with the LA Clippers plus the 4 here. I understand Kawhi is out, but the Clippers are a much better home team. That was a road loss to Sacramento. They've lost 2 in a row at home, though, so I also think it's 3 in a row, 4 in a row, 5 in a row. How many games in a row has this team lost at home? I knew that they were on a touch of a losing, but they've lost a ton of home games in a row. So I think this team could snap out of that stretch there against Denver. I think that this is also a spot for the Nuggets. If you're going to drop one, it feels like this is it. So I'm going to take, because I think it's possible for Denver to drop a game. I really do. I think going unbeaten in this final run here is a lot to ask of this basketball team. And they're not as good as, of course, I mean, they're one of the most dominant home teams in the NBA. Really the second most dominant team outside of the Boston Celtics. So dropping a road game here after 5 in a row in your own building, it's been 3 or 4 games in a row since we've seen Denver cover a would-be number of 4.5 on the road. They played a lot of tight basketball on the road. They've lost some of those games. So I like Denver, or I like the Clippers tonight, plus the 4 against the Nuggets. We'll see ultimately if Kawhi plays. Something to watch in that Atlanta-Dallas game, and I couldn't get there to make a determination, which is a little bit frustrating. But Luka is playing the Hawks, and he gave them 70 the first meeting, 73 to be exact. The points prop is 33.5, 32.5 at some spots. I feel like it's an assist night, right? Doesn't it feel like we play over the 9.5 assists for Luka Doncic? Had a triple-double in his last game out. The thought process is pretty clear here for me. The Hawks, who are a team that likes to send double teams, after not doing it much in the first meeting, shout out to Mind the Game podcast, talking about the blitz coverages that Atlanta likes to send and them not doing it against Luke in the opening meeting. If they then decide to send the blitz, creates a lot of open shooters. You can't let this guy go for 4. Can you allow Luka to finish the season averaging 60 points against you? Can't have that happen. 50 points against you? That's bad. He only needs, 27? Only needs 27 to average 50 for the year against the Hawks. I think the Luka assist is going to end up a play for me at 9.5. It's a bit expensive, though. What's the cheapest number we could find? Minus 130? We'll keep eyes on that. But I think that Luka assist prop is one to keep tabs on. Can we get a little base knock here from De La Cruz? Bring home Burt Burger's having a day. 2 for 2 with the dish. Couple of bombs. Walks as well. Love that. Joe Madden up next right here. Game Time Decisions.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay. All right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Get him a 3!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yeah!
Oh,
We
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on SportsGrid, making it happen on a Game Time Decisions Thursday. Joe Madden entering the fold. Joe, not a lot of baseball, plenty of hockey to get to. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Kevin. Other than the snow coming down in YYC right now, it's a great day.
I didn't realize you're dealing with a lot of snow. Is it outrageous?
Yeah, we're supposed to get up to 30 centimeters by tomorrow. So not what I wanted to wake up to today.
Certainly not. Stay safe. We'll wish you the best. Let's do the baseball quickly, Joe, and then we can get to all the NHL that we have, because you do have a pick in this game tonight. Kansas City, the Royals at home with Seth Lugo on the mound go against the Chicago White Sox. How are you betting this baseball game?
Yeah, two teams that I'm not expecting a lot out of this season, but I do think the Kansas City Royals at home, giving the start to Seth Lugo here, have the opportunity to be able to get the win. Now, I'm going to look at them in the first 5 innings on that run line, laying the half a run on the run line in the first 5s, coming in at -118. We look at Seth Lugo, how he came out in his season debut versus the Minnesota Twins, and he did absolutely phenomenal in that. He allowed just 2 hits while only walking a couple of players out there, and they won 5-1. So they lost that game 5-1. I do expect in this one for him to have a stronger performance than Soroka coming out here for the Chicago White Sox. I don't have faith in him. He allowed the Detroit Tigers to be able to get 4 earned runs on him. So, this is an offense that I can't trust out of Chicago either. So I do think the Kansas City Royals at home can cover that run line in the first 5, Kevin.
All right, so a little first 5 run line action with Kansas City and Chicago. We'll take it over to the NHL then, Joe. And we've talked about this before when they've met, but if Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin are going to remain in Pittsburgh and Washington, anytime they play, it'll feel noteworthy to me. What do you see with the Caps and the Penguins?
These two teams are battling it out right now. And like you said, you've got Sidney Crosby, you've got Ovechkin. I'm going to rely on Sidney Crosby to be able to get the work done in this game. This team's sitting 6th in the Metro, 79 points on the season. We know the Washington Capitals are holding on to that last wild card spot. They have 82 points, 4th in the Metro. The Penguins want to take it from them, and they have every opportunity, but it will have to start with getting this win tonight. When I look at this team, they won back in October 4-0, getting the shutout win. And we have seen the Washington Capitals take the other 2 meetings on the season, including just a month ago in March on the 7th, getting a huge shutout win, 6-0. But I do think the Penguins answer back in this game here. I'm looking at them on the money line at -110. I think they have every opportunity of being able to get the win, but I also think it's worth a little bit of a sprinkle on that puck line, Kevin. If they win this, I do think it will come into effect, that empty netter goal. So the -1.5 on the puck line for the Pittsburgh Penguins is coming in at +210, but I have to circle Sidney Crosby for his 2+ points at +200. I think he comes out here phenomenally strong in this game. The Pittsburgh Penguins looking to make the playoffs, and they're not going to be able to. If they don't win this game tonight, I think they mail in their season.
All right, so a big game then on the board. What about, Joe, this matchup between Boston and Carolina? Have you given a look with the Hurricanes, a -160 favorite, a strong number look, I get they're home, I get they're talented, but playing Boston, that's always going to be tempting for people as an underdog. That total right now at 5.5.
I know you look at this number here for the Boston Bruins, and it feels so tempting to put your money on the Bruins in this one. I just can't get there, Kevin, because you look at the Boston Bruins, this is their last game out on the road. They've had a hard road trip out here, and they are giving the start to Swayman. Now, Swayman is a goaltender I've had a lot of faith on in the season, and I will going into the playoffs. But right now, his numbers are just not looking good. He struggled over his last 5 starts with an 8.58 save percentage and a 3.37 goals against average versus a team like the Carolina Hurricanes that can be so deadly offensively. This is going to equal problems here for the Boston Bruins tonight with what we've seen out of Swayman. I do think the Carolina Hurricanes can capitalize on his weaknesses in this game. And we look at Carolina on the defensive side of the puck. This team has been so phenomenally strong. They're off 2 shutout wins. They're able to shut out the Montreal Canadiens 3-0 and the Detroit Red Wings, who we know how strong that offense is, 4-0 just last Thursday. Now we also look at them at home, and in their last 7 home games, they haven't allowed a team to score more than 2 goals in those games. They also come in rested. They haven't played since Saturday. And the Boston Bruins, like I said, have been out on the road, have had a lot of games here. So it's scary to do, but I'm going to take the Boston Bruins and their team total. I'm taking it to the under 2.5 at -112. I think Anderson in goal has been so phenomenally strong since coming back from injury. We're going to see him stand on his head tonight. We're going to see the Canes capitalize. I wouldn't be shocked if this was another 3-0 shutout win here for the Carolina Hurricanes.
All right, so some low-scoring hockey in line for Boston, possibly. Joe, what about Montreal? Plus 126 right now, it looks like, on their money line. Bringing Nikita Kucherov into their building. What do you expect, and what have you been seeing from Kucherov recently?
Kucherov's been absolutely phenomenal out there, Kevin, and I would look at him for his points again tonight. I know he's on the second night of a back-to-back, but versus the Montreal Canadiens, I do think with how he's competing with Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid, we're going to have to see him answer with more points on the board tonight. So the 2+ points, it's plus 104. We're not getting the value that we were getting even a week ago. But if you take him up to the 3+ points, that's coming in at plus 340. You look at Nikita Kucherov here, he was able to hit that 130 point mark last night. And I do think you just got to circle him again to stay so competitive out there, because Nathan MacKinnon is in action tonight. He's only 3 points behind him and has every opportunity of catching him. So, you know, these players are so competitive. They know exactly where they're sitting. I do think Tampa gets the win tonight. My problem here with Tampa is they're too juiced on the money line. I do think this is an opportunity for you to grab Montreal once they go down. I think Tampa goes up quick in this game, and then I'll come back in on Montreal plus the 2.5. We know the Montreal Canadiens fight to the very end, and the Tampa Bay Lightning on the second night of a back-to-back are 0-4 on that puck line. Too juicy on the money line right now for me to take Tampa. I think they do get the win. This could be an upset, though. We have the Penguins on deck for Tampa on Saturday, but I do think Montreal keeps it tight. Kucherov gets those points on the board.
Quickly, Joe, with the points race going on between Kucherov, McKinnon, as well as McDavid, just looking right now, McDavid has a game in hand, so 75 played for both Tampa Bay and Colorado. Edmonton has have only played 74 so far. Kucherov is minus 150 to be the points leader. McDavid is plus 240, and then McKinnon is back there at plus 460. Is there any temptation to jump into that market? There's only, X number of games left there. For me, I've always just defaulted back to McDavid. I'm wondering what you're seeing.
Well, this race is so close. So I do think if you don't already have a bet in it, you have to look at either McKinnon or McDavid, especially with McDavid with a game in hand, because these players know exactly where they're sitting. Now, I would probably look at Connor McDavid because you're getting the more value with him to have the most points on the season. I think if you like Nikita Kucherov, you're too late to the party in that one because he is sitting with 130. We have Connor McDavid behind him by 4 points, actually, and then Nathan MacKinnon only behind with 3. So there is so much value looking at the other 2 players because anything can happen in any of these games, and we know how hard these teams are pushing. When we look at which team is pushing harder for the playoffs, it is the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that is kind of dangerous because Nikita Kucherov needs to come out each and every single game and be able to put up those points on the board for his team to hold on to that first wild card spot. So we could see Kucherov still finish with the most points, but I do think there's value looking at the other 2 players, Kevin.
Curious, Joe, are you surprised at the strength of the McKinnon MVP price? Some shops minus 340, minus 300 there. Again, this is something we've talked about before, but and look, these are all really talented teams. It seems like it's going to be McKinnon's award here. The odds have suggested that for a while. Do you fully expect him to close out that race?
You know what? That's a hard one to say because I look at the Hart Award and it's voted on. So when you look at an award that's voted on, we're looking at Nathan MacKinnon. If you took him off that team, would that team still be able to get to the position they're at without him? I really think with the talent on the Colorado Avalanche, while he's a big name, while he's the star, that team still has so much firepower out there on the ice. So I would look at someone lower down. I would look at Nikita Kucherov. You take him off the ice, and where are the Tampa Bay Lightning on the season? You take Pasternak off the ice for the Boston Bruins. Where are the Boston Bruins sitting? Because you look at these lead goal scorers on these teams and who's sitting right behind them. With Nathan McKinnon, you've got Rantanen sitting right behind him. He just hit that 100-goal mark. So I don't know if I would get behind Nathan McKinnon, especially at the price. I think you can find better value out there. While he is so impactful for that team, I think there's other players out there that make a bigger impact on theirs.
Well, all right. So potentially, I think it's interesting, Joe. You've made the point. He doesn't have the points lead. He doesn't have the second best odds to have the points lead. I know that's not all that matters, but they don't have the best record in hockey. It's just it seemingly is they decided it's McKinnon's year from what I'm seeing through the odds, and it looks like it'll play out that way. A lot of other good games on the ice tonight. So make sure you're following, including the Avs on the board against the Minnesota Wild. Joe, appreciate it as always, and best of luck.
Thanks, Kevin. Best of luck to everyone out there.
All right, great stuff there from Joe Madden. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Adam Kaplan, of course, NFL insider, about the fallout from the trade. Stephon Diggs in Houston, and we're 3 weeks out from the NFL draft. What's he hearing? We'll find out next.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Get the three!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yes!
Oh,
We
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. My world is falling apart. There is construction going on at 6:40 at night, and the Cardinals have completely blown their lead, or excuse me, the Marlins have blown the lead to the Cardinals. Hopefully, to brighten up my mood, is NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Cap, how are you?
Good to talk to you, Kevin. It's been a while, but yeah, it's the NFL. We're just over 3 weeks away from the draft, and we're looking forward to getting closer. The quarterback pecking order, all the rumors that I have to sift through and see what's real and what's not. The J.J. McCarthy hype, which is just this J.J. McCarthy hype. It's not towards the Tebow level, but it's just been ridiculous, and I've had to deal with that the last couple weeks.
I am sure there's a lot to sift through. I want to get to that McCarthy stuff, certainly. Before that, though, Stephon Diggs traded over to the Houston Texans from the Buffalo Bills. And the fallout from that move, Cap, were you surprised? What have you been hearing around that trade?
No, the only surprise is to the team that he went to, because the Texans were thought, Kevin, to have a pretty good receiver core, but they learned last year when Tank Dell, their outstanding rookie at the University of Houston, broke his leg. They kind of struggled a little bit opposite Nico Collins. They clearly were not as good. Noah Brown got hurt, who's back, who's a pretty good backup. But they knew they needed to add to it. They could have waited to the draft, but they want to get a veteran. So they get Diggs. And look, this is a bold move. You know what's interesting, Kevin? When you look at the future odds coming to last season, depending which book you looked at, they were either 5.5 or 6 wins projected. It's not impossible. It's very hard sometimes to know how good a rookie quarterback's going to be. More often than not, they struggle. And Stroud had one of probably the best seasons as a rookie quarterback in the last 15 to 20 years. He elevated him to the playoffs. They had a great draft, by the way. Will Anderson, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, look, they want to take the next step. And Nick Caserio, who I've criticized a lot, the general manager, Kevin, they're going all in here to try to take the next step. They won the playoff game. As you saw, they beat Cleveland and Joe Flacco. They want to go farther. They want to be that obvious team to win the AFC South. Now, they're not obvious. They're a slight favorite over the Jaguars, who were everyone's favorite last year. Coming into the season, the Jaguars choked. But the Texans are now, I don't want to call them America's team. That's in Dallas. But they become the darling now of the AFC. Not out of nowhere, but I don't think anyone saw this coming a year ago. It's been quite the story.
Well, Cap, they're popular. I will say this. We did our future show here, and I gave out the Texans at plus 500 to win the division. The schedules are... Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yes.
Good for you.
Cool, Cap, here's the thing, right? I mean, it depends on what belief you kind of have in certain teams. The schedules are super important, and we don't have any of them, right, available yet. But that Texans team is now going to play a first-place schedule. I mean, we know who they're going to play, but the timing, of course, of this all is very, very important. And we'll see how it ultimately lays out. What I think adjustment is not being made as I look right now in the market. The AFC South, we're used to we'll call it a one-bid team, right? We're still dealing with the tournament. But now the Jaguars can take a step back to where they were. If the Texans remain, and then a team, Cap, that I know, you know well now, especially with Scheikten's involvement and Frank Reich being there, the Indianapolis Colts, this team only got, 2 games out of Anthony Richardson? I mean, Gardner played well, but they didn't have their quarterback. So I think one of the things that's not going to be accounted for by the time we get to next year is the South as a whole is going to be a lot better than we've been accustomed to.
Yeah, in fact, my reporting at ProFootballNetwork.com, right before free agency started, I said the word I heard is that the Titans were going to be fairly aggressive. Well, they were very aggressive. They have a 6.5 projected win total. They're going to be competitive. They were not competitive last season. Bad offensive line. Will Levis wasn't ready. Now he gets a full offseason to be their starter. They've spent a lot of money in their secondary. They need some pass rushers, but they're going to be better. You're right. This is the best that division, the AFC South, has been in years. It's been a long time since we've seen really high-level quarterback play, but Trevor Lawrence is good. You might get an extension this offseason. The Texans are the clear favorite, but I would say this: the Jaguars are right there. Their issue is not on offense; it's on defense. Their defense completely collapsed. If you want to know why they choked down the stretch, don't look towards the offense. The defense was a joke, and they completely changed up that defensive staff.
I mean, the and choke and collapse are appropriate words. It's very interesting to think about if the Jags had not choked, what would have happened, what the Texans conversation would be. Heck, the Texans had to win a game on the road, Cap, right, to get into the playoffs against the Indianapolis Colts. On the Buffalo side of it, some people are saying windows closed. But Josh Allen is, let's call it conservatively, a top 6 quarterback in football. Some will have him high as 2. You can't really have a window closed with a quarterback like Josh Allen. What's next for the Bills?
Yeah, so they'll address the receiver position in the draft. There's no question about it. They don't have a starting receiver right now. Curtis Samuel is probably better off as a number 3. He'll make $16 million over the next 2 seasons. He could play inside or he could play outside. But Gabe Davis signed with Jacksonville. He's reunited with Chad Hall, who was the receivers coach with the Bills. And you just had the Stephon Diggs trade. So Curtis Samuel will be a fill-in starter. They like Khalil Shakir, but he would be better as a backup. And don't forget defensively. See, this is why the division is wide open. Their win total, Kevin, at 10.5 is ridiculous. I absolutely like the under there. That division is going to be much tighter. Aaron Rodgers is back. Hopefully he'll stay healthy. They've addressed the offensive line. I know they're kind of a couple journeymen, but it's going to be better. Brees Hall was tremendous coming back from the ACL injury. Their defense is great. They just got Hassan Reddick, another pass rusher, which they can use. Miami's kind of retooling the roster a little bit. But the problem getting back to Buffalo, and this is why I would absolutely not have them the favorite. I have Miami. 4 new starters in the secondary. That is hard to get done in 1 year. 2 new starting corners they're going to have through the draft, and 2 new starting safeties. That's hard to do. 2 new starting receivers. Their offensive line's got to be tweaked a little bit on the interior. I do not agree with the odds makers having them at 10.5 wins and being the favorite. I have the Dolphins right on their heels.
It'll be interesting. The division odds did come back, and it's plus 160 Buffalo, plus 170 Miami right now. So you mentioned, Cap, the J.J. McCarthy movement that's been ongoing. Caleb's going first. I'm sure he's already been shopping for homes in Chicago. Does the chaos begin at 2?
No, well, let's put it this way. The cards aren't in yet. I've put this out in every mock draft. Not every mock draft, but most recent mock drafts for ProFootballNetwork.com and in my notes, is that I'm expecting Daniels to be 2. He's a really good processor, very athletic. He fits the mold of a Cliff Kingsbury quarterback. Kingsbury he's their OC, Washington, he's the new OC. Talking to coaches who've worked with him, he wants a mobile, athletic quarterback. Daniels is that. He's very, very sharp, high-character kid. There is one knock on him, and there's not much he can do about it, Kevin. Small body frame. He's not short, but he needs to put on some mass on his frame. That's something they'd have to do over time. Drake May should go 3. Not a lock, but he should go at number 3. There was never really a debate who the top 3 quarterbacks were. The debate was, where do you put J.J. McCarthy? So in my latest notebook at ProFootballNetwork.com, I talked about this. I put the quarterbacks in tiers. He's in a second tier. Now, I also put these notes in there, Kevin. Multiple league sources I've spoken with who've already graded McCarthy, that was their job to grade McCarthy for the draft, gave him mid-second round grades. I'm not saying that he won't go in the first round. He probably will. But that's the thing. It's kind of like with Kenny Pickett 2 years ago. By the way, got the same comparison. Are you overdrafting quarterback for need? That, to me, is where we are with J.J. McCarthy.
Very interesting, Kat, because some of the idea around the league is we could go 1 through 4 quarterback. With Arizona being willing to trade, I think what is very interesting, Minnesota's the team that everybody's focused in on. Recently, though, the Giants have been linked to some of the quarterbacks at least having the meetings. Is that a possible outcome that the Giants, whether at 6 or moving up, really take a hard look at a quarterback?
Well, understand something. With Daniel Jones coming back from the torn ACL, they've been on record saying he's going to be their quarterback this season. That's a bad injury to come back from. And by the way, they're stuck with his contract. There's nothing they could do. No one will take it. Well over $30 million this season. But remember now, this GM, Joe Shane, brought him back. He brought him back on an extension, but he didn't draft him. And their Giants are at a crossroads, Kevin. 2 years ago, they shocked the NFL world making the playoffs. And one at Minnesota, they really handled them, but they overachieved. Their offensive line, they have not drafted and developed well at all. It's been a long time since the Giants had a good offensive line. Now, moving your question along here, we just talked about the offensive line, Daniel Jones. Absolutely, quarterback has got to be looked at there. Now, you have to look at what's the value picking around 5, 6, or 7. Quarterback is wide receiver. If Malik Neighbors makes it there, that's got to be their pick. They're not very good at receiver. They've got a bunch of backups at receiver, a bunch of 3s, 4s, and 5s. They don't have a number 1 or number 2 right now. I don't see Neighbors making it though. I would put the Chargers. My new mock I'm going to do in the next week or two for ProFootballNetwork.com. I'm going to put probably Neighbors at 5. This kid is an absolute stud. You want to know who are the top players at the draft are? Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is better than he is, but it's close. They're completely different. I cannot see the Cardinals trading out of that pick. I know that they have a bad roster, but you don't pass up on elite players. There are some people around the league, Kevin, who think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be better than his father, who, by the way, is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that is a high bar. But look, the way some of these guys have entered the league, I mean, how long did it take Justin Jefferson to turn into a top 5 wideout? Basically his rookie year.
Yeah.
So it's incredible, but those wide receivers, they used to be the story with running backs, and I guess it is still to a degree, but wide receivers also now get paid at that level, and that's why they're so valuable to draft at that high spot. Cap, quickly before we let you go, is there a team to watch for you? We're always and rightfully talking about the top 10. Anybody in the back end that could surprise or shake things up?
The Raiders want a quarterback. I mean, that's a team to watch out for, picking the teams there. They know that. I mean, they've got a couple guys, Gardner Minshew, you mentioned. I know they're fine with him being their starter, although he's got to win the job. But the bottom line is that's a team to watch at quarterback because they need to figure that out. That's the thing. After the Derek Carr experience ended, they have not been able to get that right at quarterback. It didn't work with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's no longer there. And that's a team to watch there because if they've got talent at wide receiver and tight end. That's not the problem. It's the quarterback position that they've got to get figured out.
Interesting spot there for the Raiders. I feel like, we talk, and we'll talk about this a little later on in the show, Cap, right? Of what can happen that'll drastically shift odds, right? And if the Raiders found a way to get one of these, if by chance, if Washington and New England are willing to deal, that feels like it could be a swing piece for people to get very excited about Vegas. If they end up, to your point, McCarthy, Penix, Bo Nix, I don't know if anybody's expecting those guys to start day one realistically.
And they're going later, by the way. Nix is a top 40 pick. Penix, if he doesn't go in the first round, it's strictly medical. He's had some pretty significant injuries in his career. The age is not a factor. It's the injury history. Medical always comes down to deciding whether a player will drop or not. Age is less of a factor at quarterback.
Yeah, and that medical history is unfortunately really concerning. I think it's 2 ACLs and some shoulder concerns for Michael Penix. So we'll see. Kat, great stuff as always. Of course, going to be part of our coverage on draft night in 3 weeks. Can't wait. Kat, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Get my three!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yes!
Oh,
We
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16 seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here as we close out the opening hour. What's coming up in hour number 2? We're going to talk baseball odds moving after 1 week. You might think, oh, come on, what's really changed in a week? A few key items, including a new favorite in 2 different awards markets. We'll hit those. We're going to talk to Brady Cannon after the opening round of the Valero. Plus, we're not just, we're talking 3 weeks out from the NFL draft. Next week, Masters, little golf situation, get involved. So we're going to talk to Brady Cannon about that. We're then going to get all the fallout from the Bills and their trade with the Texans, sending Stephon Diggs to H-Town. We'll go through that as well. Then Dave Sharapan is here in an hour. So a lot still coming up on this show. Again, unfortunately, this Marlins bet that looked good fell apart. 5 runs allowed in the 7th inning. All started with an error where it would have been nobody on and 2 outs. It just completely fell apart. This team's about to go to 0-8. That's a season killer. You already were not going to win your division because the Atlanta Braves are in it. You're already nowhere near the class of the Philadelphia Phillies, so that's tough. The Mets are abysmal. They did come back, by the way, and win 2-1. The Mets are abysmal. The Nats are abysmal. Well, the Marlins won't be taking advantage of that anytime soon. This team stinks. You might think I'm angry. Guess what? I am angry. But it's also a team that's about to be 0-8. So good luck climbing out of that hole. Miami Marlins. 7-2 Pittsburgh lead over the Washington Nationals and a 4-2 Cleveland lead over the Minnesota Twins, who, by the way, we talk odds movement there. That number's come back a little bit, Minnesota, from the opening week. Guardians getting respect. They lead baseball in run differential. You could say that's partly playing Oakland. They went to Seattle and handled their business against the Mariners as well. That Guardians team has some juice about them. The top of the lineup with Jose Ramirez is hitting well, and we know that that's a strong rotation. If you were to give out a Cy Young after a week in the American League, it would likely be going to Shane Bieber. He has been awesome. We'll go through the NBA board in a bit. We're going to get your Davis Maddox same-game parlay on the slate as well. We're back in less than a minute. Next, right here on SportsGrid. Back right here, Game Time Decisions live on a Thursday night. Kevin Walsh with you. It is SportsGrid. Hour to go before in-game live will take over. No baseball for them to deal with outside of a White Sox-Royals game that'll have first pitch at 7:40. Plenty of NBA action, though, for the crew to go over. We can go through some of the NBA picks. We've mentioned the Clippers. We've mentioned the Rockets. We've mentioned Brunson. I think I'm going to add that Luka Doncic assist prop as well. But Nuggets-Clippers is where Davis Maddock goes for a same-game parlay.
All right, guys, we are back with another same-game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. After hitting one in Major League Baseball last night, we're transitioning back to the NBA. The Denver Nuggets traveling to LA to play against the Clippers. We are going to begin by taking the Nuggets on the spread, -4, and we're going to go over 218.5. Very simple logic here. When the Nuggets decide to try against these other top-tier Western Conference teams, they win. They're the best team in the NBA. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. I am praying for Ivica Zubac because I don't think he's going to have a very good time in this game. We're going to add on to this same game parlay by taking Jokic to score not 20, 25, but 30 points in this game. I just am feeling a Zubac cooking tonight in this game, and we're also going to take Jokic to record 10 or more rebounds as well. This 4-leg same-game parlay gives us plus 579 odds. Nuggets -4, over 218. Jokic to score 30 or more points, and Jokic to record 10 or more rebounds. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Great stuff there from Davis, even if I'm on the other side with the Clippers plus the 4. Behind me, the AL East odds. Why? We've had movement after just a week. Firstly, we bring the radio audience in here across the SportsGrid network, including SiriusXM, Channel 159. Appreciate everybody who's tuning in for Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Now, we're not going to do this every week, but I want to check in with baseball and the way things move over 162. You know this is going to be a winding road. And there are, unfortunately, going to be a number of opportunities to watch these markets shift due to injury. It's going to happen. We know that. But how do things move after just a week? Again, 162-game season. Nobody's played 10 yet. Some decent moves. We start with the Yanks. Plus 165 to win this division, down to -105. That's a 6-1 start, a sweep on the road of Houston, and already putting multiple wins up on the board against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Yankees look great. They are going to have a home opener against the Toronto Blue Jays upcoming, and we'll see how they run from there. And they've been doing it without Aaron Judge getting hot. Until the most recent game we saw, a 2-run homer, a double that brought home Gleyber Torres as well for a run scored, which was nice to see. But the Yanks have already created that movement. And they've done it despite the fact that Baltimore has still been solid. 4-2, not amazing, but solid. Boston gets the real biggest move of 19-1 to 15-1 with a 5-2 start. We talked a little Red Sox over the past weekend with Matt Peralt. Boston can surprise due to what looks to be a quality pitching staff. 2 so far for Nick Pivetta. Looks Cy Young candidate to me. So that is something to keep your eyes on. No blistering starts here from Tampa or Toronto. They did open up against one another. We will see how that continues to develop in the American League East. The early move is to push the Yankees as the favorites at a minus price, which I thought was noteworthy. What's also noteworthy is when we get a new MVP favorite after just 1 week of baseball, and that is the case in the National League. Ronald Acuna Jr., understandably last year's MVP, opens as the favorite. Behind him were 3 Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Mookie Betts, the new favorite who goes from plus 650 down to plus 350. Is this an overreaction? No. Mookie was the second choice in this race last year. And this, to me, was always going to be a tough task. It's why Acuna, by the way, started at 5-1 to repeat as the NL MVP. And that's not a voter fatigue thing. It's not that guys can't repeat. It's about Ronald Acuna Jr. last year being out of this world. Ronald Acuna Jr. had an all-time season last year. 40-plus homers, 70-plus steals. He batted over 330 on the year. Might have led the league in batting average. He was incredible. It's hard to do that. It's hard to have career years 2 years in a row. And you knew there was going to be top competition within this National League. And Mookie Betts has flashed that right away. But what Mookie Betts has done has put forward as good of a week as baseball as any hitter possibly could. Look up any hitting category in the majors, top rank, it's Mookie Betts. First in hits, first in homers, RBIs, runs scored, it's everything. And that type of run out for Mookie Betts, when you know the Dodgers, who have been continuously still winning baseball games, when you know that that team is going to be at the top of conversations, you know that Mookie Betts is going to reap the benefits of who bats behind him. Mookie's going nowhere in this race. Am I running to bet him at plus 350? No, but it's a move that makes sense. The next move is one where I am considering getting involved, and I feel like I was missing something obvious. That's the AL Comeback Player of the Year, a market that saw Carlos Rodon open up as the favorite at plus 650. Rodon bouncing back from being bad last year, I get would be a story. He is positioned as the Yankees' lead man for the time being with Garrett Cole out. His plus 650 number has not changed. It's that Mike Trout's price has been nearly cut in half, plus 800 down to plus 420. Trout has opened up the year with 3 home runs and a steal, which is a great start for the plus 650, 40-plus homers, and 3-plus swipes bet that was put in prior to the year. But when we think comeback player of the year, if this is really just, will Trout play 125 games? At plus 420, I don't hate that one bit. Not one bit. Because the statistics are going to be there. He is still very clearly one of the game's best. That last year felt like it could have been in question a bit. But what that does is, again, create this opportunity. Unless you believe that Trout is going to completely fall off, which I certainly do not, then this is a bet on health purely. Because Trout would be bouncing back both ends of it, from the worst year he's had in a decade and the injury end of it. And also, everybody loves Mike Trout. I mean, I'm sure some people are a bit annoyed that he stays in L.A. and it's time for him to move on and go play more competitive postseason baseball somewhere else. And here's the deal. Maybe that does happen. And if it does happen, he's going to still win Comeback Player of the Year. I guess that would be the knock, though, is if Trout is traded at the deadline out of the American League, he's not going to win AL Comeback Player of the Year. But a plus 420 with Carlos Rodon, that feels like something he could certainly stave off. We'll talk to Brady Cannon about the Valero and the Masters next.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Get my three!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yeah!
Oh,
we
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back here on Game Time Decisions, excited to talk to Brady Cannon. First time in a little bit. I think since the players, Brady, for you and I to talk some golf. We'll talk a little Masters in a moment, but let's get right into the Valero Texas Open here, where Batia is 8 under, if I'm not mistaken, and is currently your updated favorite at plus 360.
Yeah, he just made a birdie on the 17th hole. He is really off to a great start. And our colleague and friend Cam Stewart is on Akshay Bhatia for the second straight week. He was on him last week in Houston, and he played pretty darn well, and he's going back to the well with the guy this week. I don't know if he played him for a first-round leader, but that looks like a pretty good bet right now. You know, he's really spot on with the irons. Right now, he is number 1 in this field for greens in regulation and number 2 for strokes gained on approach. And he's not too bad with the putter either, ranking 24th. But, I mean, there's probably still room for improvement with that putter. So, you know, if he maintains what he's doing with the irons and the putter gets just a little bit hotter even, this guy is going to be in the driver's seat.
All right, so we'll certainly keep tabs on it. I'm curious, Brady, and maybe they're separate, maybe they don't matter, but the Masters is next week, right? A week from today, you know, the Masters will have teed off, and it's such an event. It's always a part of the conversation. Does anything from this tournament translate to the Masters for you? You know, Scotty, who's, of course, and we'll talk about him in a minute, the talk of the town right now, not in this field. Rory is, though. Does it matter at all? Does the Masters being next week matter at all to the Texas Open?
I think it does a little bit. And you know, in black and white, it matters for somebody like Akshay Bhatia to get into the field. You know, if you're able to earn your way into the top 50 in the world rankings or get a victory this week and you're not already qualified for Augusta National, then that's a ticket to, to drive down Magnolia Lane next week. So Bhatia would be one of those guys that if he goes on to win, he'll earn himself a spot in the Masters. Now, other than that implication, which is obviously huge for a lot of guys in this field, there's only 30 guys in this field that are already qualified for the Masters. So anybody else that wins this thing is going to be making a trip to Georgia next week. But outside of that, you know, Kevin, I think it's just you're looking for current form. Rory's off to a good start. He's got some trouble going here on the 18th hole. He drove one into the woods, but we'll see if he can maintain a par there on a very easy 18th hole. He's 3 under so far in the first round, which is a very good start. Rory, it's kind of odd. He does have a lot of good finishes the week before a major. Now, this particular event, he missed the cut last year. And I don't know how much his focus is really on this event. If he's now, I've said this too, if you get off to a good start, you're not so much worried about what next week holds, and you're going to compete and probably try and win the thing. But Rory's already had a couple of practice rounds. He only played one practice round here in San Antonio. He spent Monday and Tuesday at Augusta National. So I don't really know how much of his focus is on this golf tournament. Like I say, he's off to a good start. We'll see what happens tomorrow when the wind kicks up a little bit. But I think for anybody that you're thinking about betting or you already have a ticket on for Augusta, you kind of want to just see some good form here. And even if they play okay and miss the cut, that's probably not a bad thing either, because then they can just relax, rest up, get down to Augusta a couple days early. I think the last thing you want to see out of somebody you're considering making a bet on or already have a ticket on is just a really awful couple of days here in San Antonio. That's probably not a good sign for anybody that you're thinking about. So, the courses I don't think really correlate. There's not a lot of similar skill sets or setups to the layout or what have you, where you're going to say, oh my gosh, this guy's playing well here. That means he's probably going to play well there. There's not a relationship with TPC San Antonio and Augusta National. So I think you're just looking for guys that are, maintaining nice form. Mm-hmm. And I would say look for guys that finish in the top 20 this week. If they're in the field next week and they finish top 20 this week, that's probably a good sign.
And it's a good reminder because especially with the Masters, so much of the conversation will be the outright market, when there's a zillion other ways to bet it. And we've made that point. With that said, I'm going immediately to bring up the Masters outright market because I just checked one spot and Scotty is 4-1. Next closest was 10-1. He's playing incredibly. We know that. I don't know where you're at right now in Masters picks and breakdowns, but when you see that Scotty number at plus 400, it's one book, but I'm sure it's similar elsewhere. What is your reaction, Brady?
I actually saw him lower than 4 at another book today. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And he is truly the best player in the world. And I think that's when you include the 13 players from the LIV circuit that are going to be at Augusta National as well. And the world rankings have become muddled because, a player like Joaquin Niemann, who's won twice already on the LIV Tour this year, is ranked 91st in the official world golf rankings. And that's just because he's no longer earning points. He's not truly the 91st best player in the world. He's probably top 10, if not top 5. I think guy like Scotty really does deserve the title of best player in the world. And he's acting like it, the Players Championship, Bay Hill. I mean, he's just playing so well. And he never seems to be flattered or fluttered. He just goes about his business, hitting greens, and the putter got hot there for a minute, and then it let him down last week, when he was trying to force a playoff there in Houston. But he's going to be just fine. But, when you have not only the best players on the PGA Tour, but you've got those 13 guys from LIV as well, a couple of them you can throw out, like Mickelson, even though he finished second last year at Augusta. I think there's a few guys you can throw out. But the competition becomes more difficult, and I think it's very difficult to lay a price like 4-1. We haven't seen a price on a player like that to win the Masters since Tiger. And I think it was like 2013. From roughly year 2000 to 2013, Tiger was anywhere from like 2 to 4-1 to win the Masters. I mean, what a consecutive run that is. But we haven't seen anybody that short until now with Scotty Scheffler. And Scheffler could possibly be one day on a level with Tiger, but I don't think he's there yet. So way too risky for me to bet a guy to win out of what will be 88 to 90 players in this field, and I'm going to take one guy at 4-1. Now, that being said, Kevin, the Masters is typically pretty chalky. You can figure on a guy that's, a top 30 player in the world winning it. You can probably figure on odds shorter than 40-1, shorter than 30-1, maybe. It is going to probably be a very much so a class player that wins this week. So, yeah, maybe not Scotty, but I wouldn't probably go further much down the board than to the top.
I am excited, and again, we're going to talk to Brady again this weekend. We'll do some Valero. We'll continue to mix in the Masters conversations, but there's one number I saw, and I'm sure they have these all over the place, but a perfect example again of hang the no so we get a real odds. Scotty at one book is minus 125. Minus 125 to win a major, which is
gosh, that's
pretty
amazing.
Strong, I feel.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is that? I think the next closest is Rory at plus 250, which is pretty ironic, considering the deal on Rory is he's not going to win a major. And then you get Rahm in the fold, and it's going to be a very fun major season. But there are some of these books that hang these major specials, and again, we'll mix all this in as we continue to ramp up the coverage towards the Masters. Brady, appreciate it as always. Great stuff. We'll be right back here. Game Time Decisions.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat. It's all live bets. There's nothing from.
Oh, we missed it! Get the three!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yes!
Oh,
we
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16 seed UMBC.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here, it's Game Time Decisions. We are on SportsGrid. Quickly, before we get to the NFL stuff, NBA board upcoming. 3 props tonight. I have 2 sides. 3 props. Brunson over the 3.5 rebounds. Joel Embiid over 25.5 points. And Luka Doncic over 9.5 assists. Quickly, Brunson has missed that rebound number twice in a row, has not missed it 3 straight since coming back from injury. Getting the plus price, I'll take my chances. Joel Embiid over the 25.5. Did finish shy of that in his first game back, but a huge one against Miami. Expect a little uptick here, potentially with minutes. Expect an uptick in efficiency as well. I'm going to give Embiid a shot on 25.5. And Luka over the 9.5 assists. Scored 73 on Atlanta in the first meeting. If you're the Hawks, I feel like it's going to be a sellout situation against Doncic tonight. And if so, they'll be able to find the teammates a triple-double in the last game that they played against the Warriors. Despite only scoring 100 points to Dallas as a whole, he still had double-digit dimes. Look for more of the same tonight against the Hawks. Let's talk ball. Schefter, of course, of ESPN, breaks the news that Stephon Diggs is making his way to the Houston Texans. And this is a blockbuster deal. We know that to be so. This was a situation where I saw it and said, ooh, we've got a lot of overreaction that is about to hit the table. Again, I am in a very unique situation. I don't want to overstate it, but a lot of people last year still can't believe that the Texans were good. On this show, gave out the Texans at plus 500 to win the division. We talked through the schedule. We talked through the additions. We talked through the upside of C.J. Stroud. And that was ultimately a winning wager. Well, what do we do now? Let's start by just taking a look at the AFC outright market as a whole, which, of course, the Super Bowl champs remain at the top of, and that would be the Kansas City Chiefs. I will add quickly, even if they're not really involved in this, there's a strong argument to be made the Chiefs should be shorter than that. Regardless of talent, their ability to always grab the 1 seed, the Chargers taking a step back in the market, they're the strongest favorites, keep in mind, the Chiefs for their division. The Chargers taking a step back in the market, the Chiefs always, they're always going to be there. You could argue the Chiefs should be shorter. But what you have now is a clear top group here, right? Drop off to Miami, which I think is interesting that Miami's not inside that class because Miami, and we're going to go to the AFC odds in a little bit, they are neck and neck with Buffalo from the conference angle. It's all about where you're willing to bet. But look at this Jacksonville and Houston gap. This is what I'm talking about overreactions. The Texans last year, as we pull up your AFC South odds currently, the Texans last year not only didn't have expectations, but they were the benefactors of a Jaguars collapse. The Jags absolutely fell apart. And if that did not happen, if the Texans didn't make the playoffs, this doesn't look like this. It just doesn't. And I'm not saying, of course it did happen, but are the Jaguars as bad as we saw through the final month plus of football? No, they're not. And please do go through that schedule. Again, a part of the Texans' handicap was the schedule. Look at that schedule that the Texans played. It will not be as easy this year. Not just because the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills are all locked on the schedule, okay? It's these teams now could all be a little bit better. Maybe not Tennessee, but Jacksonville and Indianapolis, right? Those teams can be better. It makes the South as a whole a far more difficult division to try to sift through. If I had to bet a team right now, I'd probably bet the Colts, expecting that third place schedule to be the easiest and the ceiling that Anthony Richardson can bring. This is not a team I'll be looking to bet, depending how the schedule breaks. I'll say this quickly we're going to talk NFL futures. It is going to be difficult, though, to get in now. If you do this how I do it, without knowing the when and where. We don't have that yet. It is important. It is how you find the deep sleepers. It makes a difference. If you want to get in, it is if you believe there is a swing coming. There's people out there who bet on the Bucs to win the Super Bowl because they thought Brady was going there. And when he did, it was a huge swing. There might be people who bet on the Atlanta Falcons expecting a quarterback swing, and they got it, right? If you are now sat here saying to yourself, hey, you know what? I think the Bears pass on Caleb Williams. Well, then go bet some Commanders 150-1. Because Caleb landing in somewhere other than Chicago would create a huge swing. Those are the kind of things. If you're going to get involved now, you don't have all the information. So you're really just trying to beat the number. You're beating nothing by betting Houston at this number at 10-1. It's just not going to be worth it for you. But with Stephon Diggs showing up, and this has been happening with a lot of the big player moves, Saquon to the Eagles, Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens. We've gotten, Russell Wilson to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have Stephon Diggs regular season specials. 6+ regular season touchdowns is at -240. It's something that you could bank on for Diggs while he, of course, was in Buffalo. A 1,000-yard season at -110. So it gives us an idea that over under 999.5. If you wanted to start to chase some of the bigger money, 12+ touchdowns is +650. 1,400 yards is sat there at 8-1. Well, here is what Stephon Diggs did on average in his 4-year window with the Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs was undeniably one of the 5 best wide receivers in this run. You could argue a top 3. I think Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill would clear. But in this window, he was number 1 in receptions, top 4 in both receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, second in targets. He was incredible. Here's what the averages were. 111 catches, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, and then you see the yards per game and as well as the yards per reception. Diggs was fantastic. So if you go back to look at where some of these benchmark numbers checked in here for Stephon Diggs, you're going to lose those targets. Again, a 4-year window where he was second in football in targets. You're going to lose some of that. The hope, though, is Diggs can make up for that with more efficiency due to who's around him. Because Nico Collins broke out in a big way. Tank Dell looked brilliant, assuming he's ready for the start of the season. And this all of a sudden now, can you get the touchdown number to elevate? Can Diggs be the touchdown guy? I think that's possible. Maybe the yardage is a little bit more difficult to come by. But if you look with the way things were in Buffalo, Gabe Davis was a every 3-week kind of guy. So much of the attention was on Stephon Diggs. So it makes for an interesting situation there when you take a look. I'd rather bet Diggs positively in the touchdown market than the yards market. Lastly, we go to the Buffalo Bills, because this is what Buffalo is losing on a 4-year average. 111 catches, 113 yards. I mean, it's a lot that they're losing at 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, but they stay the favorites in the AFC East at +160. Miami is +170. The Jets check in right now at +240. And then you've got New England at 17-1. Now, the New England number, I'll say this, is just interesting if you love one of those rookie quarterbacks. The idea around New England should be they are going to take a huge leap at the quarterback position. That leap will be used to justify any and all bets on this team, the New York Jets, for the 2nd year in a row. And I'll tell you right now, I may be using that justification. The Jets are a very interesting team. Very, very interesting. You think about the short numbers that the Jets had last year and the way some of those numbers have pulled back. The thing is, with Buffalo getting a bit weaker and inside the division, the books are protecting themselves from any Jets 5-1s, because here's the thing. They don't need to hang the Jets at 5-1. They don't need to hang the Jets at 4-1. People will still bet them at this number with Rodgers, with the defense, and willing to fade the top. Miami at +170, Buffalo at +160. This is now going to be one of the huge things for us to watch on draft night. Is what does Buffalo do, if anything, at the wide receiver position? Now, unreasonable to think that this team could bring in Malik Neighbors or bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. Does Buffalo have it in them to trade up and get in the Rome Odunze business? That's also probably tricky. You think about that top 10, 4 quarterbacks, 1 defensive player, 2 offensive tackles. How many are we at so far? 4, 6, 7, and 3 wide receivers. That's how a lot of mocks look right now, okay? 4 quarterbacks, 3 wideouts, 2 tackles, and a defensive player. So, can they get involved anywhere beyond that? Could Brian Thomas Jr. be a possible option for Buffalo? Possibly. Where that's going, though, to all of a sudden make things very interesting is the Rookie of the Year market, Offensive Rookie of the Year, of course, if people love workload, plus quarterback, because let's just say Marvin's playing with Kyler and Neighbors is playing with Daniel Jones. There's going to be a lot of excitement for Brian Thomas playing alongside Josh Allen, but also the Josh Allen season-long numbers. Could those dip without Diggs and provide value? Something for us to keep our eyes on. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Dave Sharapan next, right here on SportsGrid.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay, all right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat, it's all live bets. There's nothing from...
Oh, we missed it! Get the 3!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yes!
Oh,
We got
God.
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
Is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back here, Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh joined by Dave Sharapan, the Consig. Pittsburgh friendly. You're excited, a little Crosby Ovi. How many more of these do we have?
Not too many. This is a big deal. I mean, I said it today, Bostonian versus the book, especially after they won the other night. I said, they're pulling me back in. Just like the line from The Godfather, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me right back in. They actually can still make the playoffs. Big game tonight. They're up 2-0 in the first. Looking good. I don't know. This might be the last. I don't know what's going to happen. If the Penguins don't make the playoffs, they're not trading Crosby, but it's going to look a lot different. So enjoy it while you can, and let's hope the Penguins win, K-Dub. That's all we're rooting for right now.
All right, we'll root on a little Pittsburgh Penguins action then.
Yes, sir.
You always know Dave is gaining belief when the Pittsburgh, the Penn State stuff makes the appearance, right?
Yeah.
It's, and I appreciate that. Question for you.
We don't break out the diagonal Pittsburgh, Kevin, for any. I mean, this is a big game jersey. Okay, this one here.
Right.
This is the old school. We don't break this out too often, but this is a big game tonight.
Has the H at the bottom?
What's that?
Has the H at the bottom?
It's got the whole thing. The fighting strap. This is straight from the locker room. This is a Kevin Stevens model. It still fits. 1990. I mean, there's hope. You know what I mean? There's hope. It still fits. It looks good.
Have you just weighed the same since 1990?
Pretty much. Little fluctuations here and there, but yeah, down, up, with all within 5 to 10, and we're working on getting back down to one more run. I'm going to take one more regular shift, and I'm going to pitch one more inning down in Bradenton at some point. I'm going to get the wheel, loose again. We're going down to the fantasy camp at some point with the Pirates. They asked me to throw out the first pitch at PNC Park later this summer. I got to get ready. I cannot hit the ground if I go out and throw the first pitch at the game. It's got to be a strike.
All right, rooting you in. We just talked some Diggs trade. I'm curious. Look, it's a big deal. It's a big name. Yeah. Odds move because of it, but that's not money moving it, right? That's guys in the room saying, "Okay, we just got to move it now," right? They're not waiting for the first bet after a Diggs trade, are they?
Some books, yes. Some books, no. There's books that move on air, is the expression in the business. That's an industry term. That's moving without a bet. And there's other books that'll wait to take a bet and kind of not direct it, but you can kind of lead a horse to water. You can't make the horse drink, but you can put out a price that somebody, whether they have a betting bot or, whatever, they'll find it. They find these mispriced items very quickly in the sportsbook world. Yeah. So I think this move. So what a couple things is, you have to change the division odds immediately because they're not the division. Are they still the division favorite in some books? Maybe.
Yeah.
I personally, would you make the Dolphins the favorite now after that trade?
No, because let's do this, but let's do this the different way, right? Forget who's gonna win it. If we make Buffalo not the favorite, we're going to take too many Buffalo bets, right? They're going to want to bet them anyway, Buffalo.
But at this point, after they trade their arguably best wide receiver, isn't this the time to go get the Buffalo money? Let's make sure. This would be a discussion in the room. We could leave them the same as Miami. They're just, we just saw the odds right there. They're close. That's fine. I think you have to look at the draft and you go, okay, who's on this team that's going to catch the football? This moves right into the draft prop market where who's Buffalo drafted? They're probably drafting a wide receiver now. I would have to think.
Minus 300.
You know what that was yesterday before the trade? Minus 200. So that number has to move. Would you move the season win number after that trade?
Oh, I mean, listen, that's one of those things where I'll be real snobby about it. You bet a win total before we have the when and the where of the schedule. I just don't agree with how you bet win totals. I'll put it like that.
Oh, I agree. I wouldn't personally bet it before the draft.
And I'm not saying you, of course. Right, yeah.
You know, That's some people might, though, because they think they're getting a number that is going to be the best number. So they bet under the season win. We might have to tick it down a half. If it's 10.5, we might go to 10. We're not going up. That doesn't, perception-wise, I don't think that makes somebody go, oh, well, they got rid of Diggs, so they're going to be better. I think what it may entail is, are they going to trade for Higgins? Maybe. Are they going to draft a wide receiver? Maybe. Does it bring the Jets into the conversation, K-Dub?
So I think they are being very protective. From what I see, they're not inviting the Jets bettors in.
No.
2-1 plus 240 to win the division. They're keeping them at arm's distance. Like, you can bet them, but we're not giving them to you in the way that you would probably want to. I'd imagine if you were in the room, you're like, I'll give them the Jets.
I mean, I would. I'd move it up a little bit, let them go till we see the schedule. Jets are going to have an advantageous schedule, right? Buffalo's got the first place schedule.
Yep.
Going to be tough. I mean, this doesn't help them. I thought the news yesterday was interesting. I'm glad that, we can get through that right now. Pre-draft betting, NFL futures, pause.
I think what you're doing for me is, if I had, and I have no NFL future, right? Is if you believe, look, if there's a number that's way wrong, okay, right? But it's also, and you, I'm sure, saw this, when Tom was leaving Tampa, there were people who had or was leaving New England, there were people who were betting Bucks, but other teams as well, hoping they caught the Tom landing spot, right?
Yes.
That's the hope. So, last offseason, I have this right, before Tom retired, people were probably betting Vegas futures and Titans futures, thinking they were getting Tom. And they ended up getting Ryan Tannehill and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Before Rodgers went to the Jets, do you remember when he was going to go to the Broncos? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that were buying Broncos tickets like they had Biff's Almanac from Back to the Future, and they already knew that Denver was going to win.
The books were pricing him like that too, though. The books had essentially started pricing him like he was on Denver.
They kept betting them. They bet the second number. They bet the third number. It went down. Then he didn't go, and it went back to the original price. So, yes, there's a lot of speculative buying out there in these NFL markets, especially the Super Bowls, the conferences, the divisions can be. I mean, you only have to beat 3 teams. The division bets are the sharpest market there is in these futures. These guys know the opponents. The order of the schedule isn't out yet. Those are the ones you got to really be aware of. Now, does this affect Houston's number in your eyes? I mean, it makes them the definitive favorite to win the AFC South, does it not?
Yeah, they are, but
they already are.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Dave, and I almost am sometimes uncomfortable talking about this, because despite what people think about me, I don't want to come off full of myself, or like, I gave out the Texans to win the division at 5-1 last year on this show.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So a lot of people see Houston and go, nobody saw this coming, but now they're all in. But they didn't follow the Texans' path. They were dead to rights. The Jags collapsed. The Texans didn't run away with the division. They played a Week 18 game with the division on the line in Indianapolis that they won, and then needed the Titans to upset the Jags in Week 18. So I know that number's the number, because people are like, oh, the Texans are amazing now. CJ's going to get better. Is he going to get better? Is he going to get better? He led the league in touchdown-interception ratio. More touchdowns, more picks. Tell you right now, give me the CJ interception number over.
Oh, wow.
So,
whoa.
But Dave, I'll put it to you like this, Consig. Is every division favored about to win their division?
No.
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 Is everybody who's the best team in their division booked to win their division? Yes. But a lot of people go, well, they're the best team. They're going to win the division. Are they the best team? I mean, the Jags didn't lose everybody all of a sudden. The Colts, again, let me ask you this. What if the Colts won that game?
Right.
That Week 18 game.
It's a completely
And now
different
Anthony
narrative.
Richardson over Gardner Minshew. Are the Colts the favorites?
It's correct. That's a whole different narrative. If that one game flips, it's a whole different narrative. That's good. That's how you talk out a couple bets right there and a couple prices. I love it.
And again,
Are you
so
on
to
this?
me, I'm not
Are you on this NIT game at all?
What?
Are you on this NIT game?
I'm in Jersey. Didn't break it down. Don't care. Won't break it down. Good for me. Hope everybody else enjoys it. Won't watch. I'm in Jersey. What am I supposed to do?
Unbelievable. What are we doing?
What am I supposed
The
to do?
NIT championship game. You can't even look at it. Oh,
I'm telling you right now, they better hope none of these Jersey schools ever get good, actually. Like, they better hope Schiano doesn't turn around Rutgers. They better hope these McDonald's All-Americans at Rutgers next year don't deliver. It's a disaster.
that's a lot of handle. If this Seton Hall team was in a Final Four, you couldn't take bets. You couldn't even.
No, isn't that crazy?
No. Yeah. Believe me, I seen it. It's not good for the business. It's a beginning process in the legislation. You say, "Oh, we won't take the college teams," and they push stuff through. Like, okay, they're being responsible. Everybody's being responsible. It's at the behest of lost business. It's not good. Seton Hall's winning, by the way. We're on the Hall.
But okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's one of those things, though, they won't realize until one of the teams commands the attention. It's unfortunate, right? But look at New York, New Jersey. We'll throw Philadelphia in the fold, right? Or Pennsylvania, I guess I should say.
Right.
So you have Penn State football.
Huh.
What's next? What else do you have? St. John's basketball? That's not something we talked about until Rick got there this year, and that didn't even live up to hype.
Right.
Iona College hoops? I mean, legitimately, I'm not even trying to be funny. There's no New York college football. The New Jersey college football is Rutgers.
Right.
And, all right, oh, yeah, you missed out on betting under 35.5 when they played Iowa. Okay, nobody cares. Sorry, Ben. Love you, brother, but nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
So I can only speak to it here. Like, I don't know. North Carolina just became legal. Can they bet UNC and Duke games? If not, I don't know why they bothered legalizing the thing, honestly.
They're good there. They didn't have that rule in North Carolina.
Yeah, you know why? Because otherwise it would have been a waste of time.
Correct.
Imagine they weren't taking NC State bets.
Oh. No, I don't even want to think about that. That gives me that makes my head hurt. That would be terrible. I'd be answering the customer service line going, listen, you're in the state.
Can I just tell you this? I get these moments. It's like there's like 2 to 3 a year where Dave has a flashback where he feels like he's actually still in the room.
Oh.
And he's like, please stop. Please. I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's the best. Good Sig, appreciate it. We'll talk. Best bet on the other side.
I'll see you this weekend.
That's the first.
Need the second one in a major way.
Okay. All right.
Need the second one here for you. 74-61. The sweat. It's all live bets. There's nothing from.
Oh, we missed it! Get my three!
Hit it!
Come on!
Hit it!
Stop!
Hit it!
Yes!
Oh,
we
my
got
God!
it! Foul him! Foul him!
Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16 seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back here on Game Time Decisions, I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Up next is In Game Live, so make sure you stay dialed. I will see you Saturday. It'll be myself on Game Time Decisions from 11 to 1, and then myself and Joe Lisi on Bama-UConn coverage. Cannot wait for it. Very excited. Speaking of college basketball, I just want to hit something quickly because some breaking news came across the table just a few moments ago. Justin Edwards of Kentucky, freshman forward, is going to enter the NBA draft. Justin Edwards averaged under 10 points per game. Once this season, he scored 20. 4 times this season, he was able to break 15 points. Now, I'm not trying to knock Justin Edwards. I get it. You were a top 5 recruit, and basically, if that's true, you can parlay that into being a first-round pick. And again, that is totally fine. I want you, though, to go out there and see how many people are saying that Justin Edwards is going to be drafted through nepotism, or it's ridiculous, or why is Justin Edwards entering the draft? Outside of Kentucky fans who maybe wanted a second season out of Justin Edwards, nobody's going to care. But what's going to happen soon is Bronny will enter the draft. I don't think he stays in college. Maybe he will. But when he enters the draft, everyone is going to say that McDonald's All-American is only drafted based on his father. Except that McDonald's All-American will likely go in the second round, while Justin Edwards, who had just as disappointing of a season, will ultimately end up going probably inside the top 25 picks. But that's because a lot of people get angry, and that's okay. But I'm going to always try and set the record straight for you, because I am the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. And we're keeping it in LA. Give me the Clippers plus the 4. This is the upset spot for Denver as they try to finish out as the top seed here. I think the Clippers at home will have the most juice they've had in some time as they try and win at home for the first time in a while, despite not having Kawhi. DG and Harden are going to have to learn how to win some games without him. Usually how this works. See ya. Good luck.